Okay.
So, hi, Elaine, and welcome everyone. This is yet again another opportunity for us to let's have a conversation. My name is Diane Conroy Lasavita, and I'm with Colony Senior Service Centers. And on behalf of Humanities New York and their tremendous support, we get to have a conversation with two different women each month. So, this opportunity today is with Elaine Phelan. And Elaine is a professor at Siena College. And she's also very involved in a women's group that I belong to for a number of years. So, Elaine, thank you. Thank you for zooming in with us today to have this conversation.
Thank you very much, Diane, for having me. This is rather exciting. This is fun for me.
So, Elaine, we're going to start way in the beginning. So, where were you born?
Diane, I was born very close to where I live. I was born in Albany, New York, on 2nd Street in Albany, which was a very immigrant-based neighborhood. I went to a Catholic school that was in walking distance from my house. And I also went to a high school, Cardinal McCluskey, that was very close to my house. It was a big deal to get on the bus. And then we moved to a neighborhood, Fleetwood Avenue, that was by St. Peter's Hospital. And that's where I spent my high school years. Then I went on to a college where I'm still teaching, Siena College. I graduated from Siena College. I had a degree in accounting, and I have spent several years working for big international firms. Then I went back to school. I got my master's, and after working as a CPA at a CPA firm for very many years, I remember that when I was in college, unlike my friends who wanted to be at the end of their college career, I realized how good it was. So I had a long career at Russell Sage College in Troy, women's college. And then about 11 years ago, I hopped over to Siena College, my alma mater. And it is very interesting to be at Siena, to be on the other side of the desk, which is sometimes a lot of more fun because I can control what's going on, but I am the one that has to be prepared every day to deliver my classes, which I very much like. In addition to being a full-time professor, principally of taxation, of federal taxation at Siena, I have a 100% women's-owned CPA business. I deal with tax matters and accounting matters. And the reason it's 100% women-owned, because it's me, Elaine Phelan, CPA. And that's what I do when I'm not teaching. And I would echo what fun it has been for me to be involved with such a good group, the Colony Women's Club. I'm just always loving to do a shout out for them because I have formed so many good friends. There are so many good women there that do so many good things and know how to have a good time. So that's my simple story, Diane. And that's it, I guess, in a minute and a half.
So, well, let's take a step back. I'm just curious. So now you grew up in Albany, and it sounds like you really grew up in a wonderful community. That you're walking to your grammar school, and originally you're walking to your high school. Now, I assume the Catholic faith was very important to your family and your upbringing, but also the sense of living within a community that I would assume you were relying on neighbors and other family members and so forth. Is that correct?
So important. And I guess a big factor in my life, and if I had to say what a controlling moment in my life was, that my dad died when I was 8 years old. My mother never remarried. So I became her director in her life. And I realized the role as a woman that was very important, and it was happened very early on in my life that I was used to doing things like mowing the lawns for my mom and mowing the lawns for my neighbors to get paid, shoveling snow. I used to even do things like paint not as an 8-year-old, but as time went on and I was a teenager, those are the things I did. And I think I always wanted to be very self-supporting in and support my family.
Yeah. Now, were you an only child?
I was not. I have a brother who has passed away and a sister who are 15 years older than I am. So
Okay.
the traditional Catholic story is I was indeed a mistake, but they kept me around. And through the years of grieving for my father, being out with my father, my mom said, it was the best mistake of her life.
Uh,
So that's what my mom
mhm.
said. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. Now, so you go and you go right into college and you go for accounting, which is interesting to me. At the time, was it your mom who was saying, Elaine, you need to go on to college? Who was that force behind you saying, okay, you're pretty self-resilient here because you've had to be. And so now it's your opportunity to get educated.
Diane, you are so misquoted. The person who I was originally going to be a journalism major. And when I was in high school, I won from the Times Union the Syracuse University Scholarship in the School of Journalism in my senior year in high school. So
Wow.
I got to Siena College and was going to be an English major, which I may say that has suited me well in my ability. That has been very important to write proposals, to write letters to clients, to edit. So I very vividly remember I met my husband, Bill, who we've been married for 41 years. In,
Congratulations.
thank you. Uh, we met and he was in the library and I so remember sitting next to him and he was working on his accounting homework and I was working maybe on some English paper. And he brought me over and back then there used to be things in the library called magazines and they were on the shelves. And he said, why don't you flip through one of those? Look through, those are accounting. This is what people in accounting do. And I looked at them and I guess because he knew what was ahead and he knew he wouldn't want to support a woman who was a journalism in small Albany, New York, that's where I ended up. So actually I was a year behind my class in terms of my credits for accounting. Most students at that time started right into accounting in their freshman year. I was a sophomore before I entered my accounting career, but it was all history. I was able to do quite well. Graduated summa cum laude with a 3.9 in my field. So I
Wow.
guess it worked out okay.
And
That was a little bit of
Sienna's
bragging, sorry.
no. But Sienna is so well known for its, the financial programs and its accounting programs. So that's wonderful. And it's
Yeah,
got such a nice alumni group locally. Is he
yes.
very close?
And as a little plug for our Siena alums, Siena alums love to hire Siena people. And we were very, very fortunate at that time. But, my career in accounting spans 40 years.
Yeah.
So that, women weren't, like the top dogs then.
Right.
And I think of the situations where working for an accounting firm, it was quite different than women working now. And I can't believe that in my lifetime, women have progressed so much, which leads me to something that is very important to me is supporting other women in the field of accounting. As I said, I was from Russell Sage College, a women's college, very active there in women's roles and studies. And then when I got to Siena, I kind of assumed that I like to I love the boys, but I love to put the women under my wing and kind of shelter them, or no, that's the wrong word, encourage them, give them their assertiveness training. And even now, I think it's necessary.
Yeah, I would agree with you. You know, when you think about life, and so often you're provided opportunities that at the time you might not recognize that it was an opportunity. That sometimes if you have that advocate, you have that supporter, whether it's a family member or a professor or someone in that community, that might made all the difference in what you ended up being or doing and really how your life ends up working out. And so
That's
I
a big- Oh, excuse me.
no, go right ahead.
No, that's a very important point because when I first started teaching, it was all about the technical aspects in accounting. We have the IRS code, we have things called financial standards, and it was all about, delivery of all that technical material.
Mhm.
As the years have gone by, it has become far more about mentoring the students, being there for each individual student, yeah, male or female. Sometimes I give the guys a hard time, but they're kind of used to that. And I think that is an aspect of my career that I I just so, and I'm not wanting to sound cheesy, but I really love that aspect of
Mhm.
my career, to be able to reach the students. I teach a course at Siena called Taxation, Federal Taxation 1. And all of the students at Siena need to take this course if they're an accounting major. So as I say to the students, every accounting major currently has to come through my pause and have a class with me before you graduate. So I pride myself, and it's very important to me that I use different styles of teaching to be able to reach each individual student. Because it's not up to the student to perform for me, it's for me to be able to help the student advance in their career and do the things that they want to do. So I find that fun.
Actually, I find that pretty profound. Being in
Uh,
college a long duration of time myself, that a professor would have enough understanding or compassion to say, I really need to start where the student is and not necessarily where my knowledge base is. Because
So correct.
I was a math major starting, and I'll tell you, it got very complicated very quickly because you're dealing with differential equations, and all of a sudden you're like, what? And so had maybe some of my professors way back when had the compassion and the understanding you had, maybe I would have finished as a math major.
Well, I think that everybody has had a professor that maybe wants to be profound and show the students how smart they are. That's not my goal. I I kind of know my stuff, and that's not important to me. It's so important, and it's so rewarding when a student who walks out of a class knows maybe not 10 different things than they came in with, but maybe two or three.
Mhm.
And I didn't waste their hour and a half in class, and that they know a few more things they did going out of the class than coming in. And that's my role. I don't do maybe 10 things a day, but you probably get a few things that you'll remember, hopefully. And if they're really important things, I tell the students they must remember this till the day they die.
A little bit of confidence there.
Yes.
Now I'm wondering, can you share with us the difference between, so you said for many years you worked in a CPA firm or a couple,
Mhm.
and then you
Yes.
decided I'm going into academia. So what
Yeah.
happened there? Did you say I'm done with the billable hours and I'm ready to do the teaching piece?
Well, as I may have said, I love the environment of being in academia.
Mhm.
I loved that whole shtick of very different different thinkers being around me, and that's what made me really want to go into teaching. and to do that. But as I mentioned, at that time, I was able to take a chunk of some of the clients that I was working on. They asked me, I didn't ask them. And so some of those tax clients gave me the foundation for my tax practice. And I still have some of those accounts that I may have acquired like 30 some plus years ago that we're still dealing with each other. So that's what kind of convinced me to go into academia.
Yeah. And I would assume you probably run into some of your students, probably if you've been teaching for a bit, and maybe they'll say to you that you really made the difference for them. I'm just curious. I foresee that with you, Elaine, because you have such a positive attitude towards really everything you do.
Well, thank you, thank you. I'm going to tell you a little, this is about a couple of weeks ago. I was at a Valley Cats game. It was a Siena alumni game, and for Siena staff and alums. And in front of me was one of my former students with his children, with his wife and children. And he remembered me. And I think I was, you could have, my head was like a balloon. It was so exciting that he graduated, I think, I don't remember the year exactly, but I remember he remembered me from taking a tax class, because for many years while I was teaching at Sage, Siena needed someone to teach tax class at night. So I've been at Siena more than the full-time years that I've been. So this was probably, his kids were like 8, 9 years old. So it might've been the early 90s. And he remembered me and spoke so nicely about his children, to his children about me. That was a wow moment.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then when the students come back and tell me about some of the jobs they have, some of the encounters, it is just so wonderful for me. That's my paycheck. That is my pay for being in academics, for being I say I'm not an expert in anything, but they call me a tax specialist, which I think is funny. But anyways, that's my title.
Well, with all the changes to the tax law recently, right, over the last, so you know what, I would say you'd have to be a specialist or an expert just even to understand all these changes. Has your curriculum changed quite a bit then, I would assume?
Every tax act. But as I say to my students, this is the Full Employment Act for accountants. As things get more and more complex through every simplification act, that is our Full Employment Act. And through COVID and all of the changes that have occurred, not only with the tax law, but I'm sure you have encountered with some of the loans, the stimulus. As I served my clients, not just an accounting knowledge, a tax knowledge, but their sounding board. And I write, and this is where my English comes in, writing proposals for them to get additional funding. And through COVID, when everybody was down and out and not working, that was again a time that I was so very busy, and that because of the changes. So yes, things are constantly changing, and that's a good thing for accountants. That's something we relish.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a good subject matter, and that is COVID. So here you are at Siena, and I would assume in March of 2020, they probably told everybody to pack their things and to go home. And so your fall semester of last year and spring, I'm just wondering what that looked like. Were you hybrid? Was it all virtual? What did Siena do?
Well, Diane, I can remember it was March of 2020. And the Sienna, we were leaving for spring break.
Mhm.
And we thought that we would be back in a week. And, this was happening in Europe and China. And, so I told my students, as I always do when they go on a vacation, I tell them, if your books get sand in them from the beach, that's okay. That's okay. And I also said, as long as you wash your hands and keep your face, your hands out of your face, you'll be fine. And I'll see you in a week. I had never, those graduate students, which is, they didn't die, but I never saw them again.
Mm.
So Sienna, at that time, that was March of 20, they extended spring break. And for me, who has always been 100% hands-on type of instructor, they gave us a week of training on how to do remote. And I thought Zoom was going fast on your bicycle at that point. You zoomed and oh, what a shock that was. And then I can remember we thought, oh, it's going to last a week. It's going to last 2 weeks. We'll be, we'll just go through this. And I guess you can teach an old dog new tricks, because I learned a lot of new tricks. Then we have a new president, President Chris Gibson, former military, former congressman, who came on board in the fall of 2020. And he was hired prior to that. And here he comes in for a COVID situation. So we went back in August of 2020. We started our term early. And so I came back and I had some of my class was virtual, online, on Zoom. Some were in front of me, and I was teaching in tents. I was teaching in all these different spaces that I had never entertained that I would be doing that, because we needed, as you know, Diane, to keep the spacing.
Sure.
And so that was another component of my education. But once I got the swing of it, it was quite compatible and possible to do. But to Sienna's credit, we went through 2 semesters, the fall of 2020 and the spring of 2021, with not having one day of shutdown for COVID.
Wow.
And I'm very, very proud of my students, and would tell them that daily, how proud I am of them. I am, and I was. We all had to wear masks. We all had to maintain the rules. Our president, if we got a little bit of a flip, he had to pull in the ranks and kind of redirect us, but he did that very effectively. And the Sienna students complied. They did what we asked them to do. And as a result, graduation occurred, an in-person graduation occurred in May of 21. And we graduated not one class, but 2 classes of Sienna graduates. So those that were able to and could come back to graduation, came back and had a real graduation. Those that wanted to be virtual for graduation, we Zoomed them in. And I think that was such a great way of capturing the success of what Sienna students are able to do.
How resilient, right? That all of us are. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for the students being able to nip and tuck and do what they needed to do, it would not have happened. And also, I commend the staff, our staff, our facility staff, who were able to put up the tents, set up computers in really strange places, put safety rubber over the cords, so we didn't trip on them. I only tripped a few times.
Another thing in regards to COVID and it's kind of the aftermath is people working from home,
Mhm.
right? And not having to go into the office. So I know for our CPA firm who does the books here at Colony Senior Service Centers, they kind of had this hybrid approach to doing our taxes. And when they
Mhm.
did do their on-site visits, they were very limited. It had to be very, secure and no one was in that space and they were here for just a short duration of time and took an awful lot of paperwork and so forth with them. It'll be interesting as things kind of progress and open up more, whether we'll see that huge CPA firm or those accountants maybe working from a den or an office in the home as compared to maybe a larger office space with lots of cubicles.
You are so right. And when we began this pandemic, many of our students, Sienna has a great internship program, and I'm speaking for the accountants especially. And these students who were supposed to go into the office
Yeah.
could not with COVID. So they had to perform their internship functions remotely. So the students who are very adaptable using technology performed their tasks from home or from their dorm rooms at Siena. So that's very interesting. And now there's a gradual going back. And I think what the firms, from what I've heard, are doing maybe a couple of days a week. Um, because I think there is a component of getting to know your associates. I think hopefully that will never go away. I hope we never substitute computers for the personal contact. Um, and because I think that's very important. I think it's very important for clients too, to see us, uh, to be able to have a conversation with a person in the room. But of course, safety first, and you do the safe things, and then you have the fluff stuff, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit. So you met your husband at Siena and your daughter. I'm just curious. We're talking to you. You are actually in Maine right now. So do you spend your summers in Maine? Are you there on vacation?
My husband and I have a townhouse here in Portland. My daughter, Jane, is a resident of Falmouth, Maine, which is about maybe 7 miles from here. She has two children. She has Caroline, who's 3 years and 9 months, and she has Matilda, who is 9 months old. So we purchased this place about a year ago so that we could have a spot to come to be here when we wanted to be here. And every time I crossed the border, I got COVID tested and proof of being COVID free. I spent so much time at SUNY. They didn't ask me my name. They said, "Welcome, Mrs. Phelan. How are you today?" So I've had more swabs up my nose than I can count. So I come to Maine and it's fun in the summer, but I kind of like it here in the winter time. A place like Portland, as my son Neil, who is in Boston, would say, it's bumping, and I love that activity in the summertime, but I like the quiet. I like the
Yeah.
quiet in the winter time. So
Very
yeah,
nice.
yes, and I have had remote classes from this table. So I guess,
Well,
I
you would
guess,
never know. You would never know you're in Maine, except, well, that map behind you, I think.
yeah, yes,
Says you're in
yes.
Maine.
So
Yeah.
that was a housewarming gift from my daughter. So
There you
yeah,
go.
so she has two children. She is here and she works for a firm called KPMG. But my daughter will say very wholeheartedly, I am not an accountant. She works in the healthcare consulting for KPMG. And
Gotcha.
she's very fortunate with two children. She can work 100% remotely. So that's very good for her.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we like coming here.
that's lovely. Elaine, what advice would you give a young woman who's thinking about maybe majoring in accounting, or maybe an older woman who's thinking about going back to school and trying another chapter, and looking at accounting as a possible option?
You can certainly always have the opportunity to contribute,
Mhm.
because when the economy is bad, you need accountants. When the economy is revving up, you need accountants. So if you want to be busy, if you want to think about interesting topics, accounting, especially in taxation, is more about, and I guess this will be all in all accounting, is about relationships. People say, I'm not good with math, I don't want to be an accountant. I took a calculus course in college. I don't do calculus. I don't do high level math, but I do think about the relationships of numbers, that if we increase someone's income by this amount, this percentage, what will that do to their taxes? What will that do to their tax credits? If you donate and you save taxes, what is the benefit of making that donation to the seniors of Colony? So yeah, so it's so much about relationships and looking at the different components. So a young woman who is thinking about accounting, she will always be employed. She will have great flexibility in her career. She will be able to, once she gets some experience, you need some experience, call the shots in her career. And I think for someone who is more seasoned like I am, there's never going to be things that the information will always be new. It'll always be so much to learn, and things will be changing, and you will be, you'll pick up the paper and you'll read something that is so interesting, how it will affect people, how taxes are obviously very pervasive in all of our lives, whether you're on the top tier of the totem pole or the bottom tier. What the government does in the tax code certainly affects your life. And as a more seasoned woman, you could offer services to other people. When I came to Siena, I started a program that I'm sure you're familiar with, Diane, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. And for someone who has a few hours a week to devote to this program, this is a program for people that are below an income limit, and it changes every year. It was around 50,000 the last time I checked, but you're actually preparing their returns for them. And this would be some individual that would have to pay several $100s to go to an H&R Block to get their return prepared. And if you help this person prepare the return, they could be using that $400 or that $300 for groceries or for their rent. So we have a huge contingent of Siena students that go out to places in the Capital District and actually prepare returns. We were a little bit sidelined with COVID. I hope to activate this back, but it's also a great opportunity for someone in their life that has a few extra hours that wants to learn and give back to the community. The IRS approves all of the people that do this, and if you make a mistake on anybody's return, there are reviewers, and the IRS does not hold anyone liable for anything they do as a volunteer. And I say that because I think that's very important, that You're going to be helping people out. And it's not like you're a doctor giving the wrong medication and then they're going to sue you, you know, they can't. So that's my plug for VITA.
Yeah.
Great thing.
Yeah, I think that's great because we're always promoting seniors to think about volunteering, taking up an interest, not worrying about yourself, giving that compassion towards someone else. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, and because in doing this, these people are, the underprivileged, and not only preparing their return, but talking to them, having you might have someone who has recently lost her husband, or a man who's lost his wife and is coming to you, and you're spending a few extra minutes with that person. You may be talking to someone about what are they going to do with their refund? How are they going to pay their bills? That is a very important element of VITA. And my Sienna students always get really high marks for that, for just listening while they're doing the technical stuff. The technical stuff is very easy with VITA. You can't accept a complicated return. You can't accept a return that someone who has rental property. These are someone that barely have a W-2, will get an earned income tax credit, probably 2 lines on your return. But yet you're giving them that moment of consideration.
Mhm.
And that is really, really important with VITA. You don't need a whole lot of knowledge. You just need a little time and a willingness to meet somebody on their terms.
Compassion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Elaine, on behalf of Colony Senior Service Centers, our staff and our board of directors, thank you so much for taking the time to have a conversation. It was really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Diane for asking me. This has been fun, and I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, you did great. Thank you. All right.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.